Good evening, and welcome again to Great Emmanuel Brotherhood Overview today. We have a short, wonderful lesson coming out of 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 6 through 14. It's titled Real Life Struggles. Brothers, as we all have experienced, living this Christian life can be challenging. And the message today is telling us to be careful of thinking we have arrived. Or in other words, we don't need God. Remember, pride cometh before the fall. The Apostle Paul wrote this letter to warn the Christians of the Corinth church because they had become overconfident in their blessings from God, and they started doing what they wanted to with no self-control of the flesh, which had them living on the edge of disaster through their worldliness behavior. So Paul gives them an illustration of what Israel did and the road they were following as an example to them and us Christians today. He goes on to stress the fact that the whole nation of Israel received the privileges of God's divine blessings. In Exodus 13, verse 21, it says, God went before them in a pillar of cloud in the morning and in a pillar of fire at night. He blessed them with guidance. He brought them out of Egypt and through the Red Sea. He blessed them by setting them free. They, the nation of Israel, was baptized into Moses, a united community of God. He blessed them with Moses as their leader of God's people, which gave them an identity. He also gave them food and drink with manna and water. He blessed them as their provider. And then a shocker happened. Day after all God's blessings to them, they did not believe they could take the land God had sworn to them. Through unbelief, from unself-denial and no self-control, God was not pleased, and their loss of God's blessings came due to their evil desires, committing sin. And through lust, Israel started indulging into the things of the world. Idolatry, they began to worship a golden calf. And while eating and drinking, in verse 7, which is taken out of Exodus 32, they literally engaged themselves in an idle kind of orgy act. Sexual immorality, and it tells us God struck down 23,000 in one day. Verse 8. So you tell me, is our God a jealous God? Exodus 34 and 14. Now in Numbers 21, they tried the Lord by pushing to see how much they could get away with by trying to live both worldly and godly at mostly social events, drinking alcohol, which usually ended in sexual immorality. But the Lord sent snakes. Verse 9. Paul tells them, you cannot eat at the Lord's table and the table of demons. Jesus also said, you should not put God to the test. So my brothers, these things happened to Israel as an example to the church of Corinth and us. Another powerful warning comes from Revelations chapter 3 to the church of Sardis, where it says, "Remember what you have received and heard, and keep it, and repent. And if you don't wake up, I'll come like a thief, and you'll not know what hour I will come." Brothers, we need to be watchful in our lives and our church. As Christians, we need to change our hearts. No more drinking parties. No more fornication. Put a ring on it. No more having fun that's not pleasing to God. We cannot live any way we want to and continue to enjoy the pleasures of God's blessings. Also, let's stop complaining and grumbling. That's about expressing unacknowledgeable dissatisfaction. In Numbers 16, almost 15,000 people died because of complaining. God has been good to us. Fellas, let's not let this evil world system take away our blessings. We are overcomers, meaning we prevail victoriously in the midst of difficult circumstances. And remember, God said, no temptation will come upon us that we're not able to humanly bear. And if so, He will provide a means for us to escape. Brothers, be blessed and watch for evil. Thank you for listening, and to God be the glory.